Izzy, did you catch the whole thing the other night with Tracy Morgan at Madison Square Garden getting sick?
Not only did I catch it, I saw a still frame of it that I just stared too closely at. And it was like all the way from coming out of his mouth to hitting the floor in one shot. And it was terrifying.
It was crazy because all they said on the broadcast was someone in the front row threw up.
Yeah.
They never mentioned who the someone is. The other part that's crazy is that Scott Foster, one of the officials of that game, did not finish the game. He had to leave the game, and we ended the game with 2 referees I think for the entirety of the fourth quarter. That got swept under the rug completely because everyone was so focused on the fact that Tracy Morgan threw up all over Madison Square Garden.
That's how bad Miami Heat basketball has been. They go to the Garden and they get everybody sick. That's terrible.
Welcome to Oddball. I'm Amin Elhassan. That over there is Izzy Gutierrez. I promise neither of us will throw up during the course of this taping.
Baby.
Maybe. All right. All right. Izzy, we're going to play a new game today. We're going to call this game -1. See, there are a number of teams without star players currently playing. You got the Knicks without Jalen Brunson. You got the Lakers without LeBron. And it got all of us thinking here at Oddball Inc. What if the best player on each team were removed? How good would that remaining team be? So this is what we're going to do, Izzy. We're going to play -1, which is where we narrow down a list of a few teams to discuss, the Knicks, the Lakers, the Thunder, a couple more, right? And we're going to discuss how well they would fare if they didn't have the services of their best player for the remainder of the season and the playoffs. And then we'll put them in a handy little bracket because 'tis the season, right? Everything's got to be in a bracket.
What do you think about my name for this game, addition by subtraction? Did we think about that name, or is -1 really just the best option here?
I think -1 is like nice and catchy and quick. I like addition by subtraction, but that implies not only will we survive without our best player, but we'll thrive without him. Right. And that's not the exercise we're doing here. So, all right, let's get it started. -1. Izzy, the Knicks. How are the Knicks without Jalen Brunson, minus Jalen Brunson?
Not terrible. I like how it's just, we all automatically know Jalen Brunson's their best player. No questions asked, even though statistically you might have questions about that. Look, I think they'll be pretty decent. If you look at a team, like I mentioned this before with Mikal Bridges, he's shown as a number 1 option that he's at least capable of putting up the numbers, whether it be at a little bit less efficient rate, he's capable of doing it, right? So if you got Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges as your top 2 options, and then you've got OG Anunoby as your 3rd option, that's kind of the way I've been looking at these when you take away their top player, that's a pretty good starting trio. So for me, I've got the Knicks, if we're taking away all the best players from the best teams, I've got them pretty high up there.
See, you're right. They've got scorers, and obviously he's not a defensive stalwart, so it's not like they probably get better defensively without Jalen Brunson out there. They're 4-2, by the way, without him in the lineup. And you could say, hey, they've got guys who can play make. But you know what they're missing, Izzy? They're missing a little thing that some people call cojones and other people call chutzpah. It's big, giant Sam Cassell's titanium steel balls. That's what Jalen Brunson brings to the Knicks. Without him, they are ballless. They've got no balls. They've got no clutch scoring. He represents almost the entirety of their clutch scoring this season. He has outscored Bridges, Anunoby, Hart, Towns, name anybody else on the Knicks. All of them put together, they've scored less clutch points than Jalen Brunson. I think against bad teams, they fare well. Against good teams, not so much. I think this team gets very highly limited because he is their confidence not impersonalized. What's the word? And what's the word? Not impersonalized. What is this? Whatever. Embodied. There you go. Incarnate. Incarnate. Yeah.
The Knicks, to me, seem like a team, and maybe this is a good test for them to not have Brunson out there. They seem to be on the verge of crumbling, and this is the time of year for them to do that, right? Because it's like, man, we're tired, and Mikal Bridges gave voice to that. What I don't think, like, a team that can rally without its best player is the type of team that still has that enthusiasm, still has that energy, still has like something else to go to. So this team has something else to go to. I just don't know how much they have left in the tank. Like if you have to make up for Jalen Brunson and the fourth quarter stuff that he brings you, you have to have it in the fourth quarter, first of all. And then you have to make up for a season of just getting ground to dirt by your head coach. So they're going to be good. I don't think they're the best team without their star.
The vibes seem off. We can acknowledge that, right? Okay.
They do. And I think, look, once you start questioning Tibbs's resume or just looking at it, maybe you'll just start scratching your head and be like, wait, why am I running through the wall for this guy? Like, there's been no like positive end game for this. It's pretty much been the same scenario every single time.
It always takes the new guy walking in and looking around and say, wait, you guys just put up with this?
Right. Yeah. And for what? But let's go to our next team. It's the Los Angeles Lakers. Real quick, who's their best player? And don't say Austin Reeves.
Shit, man. The amount of Austin Reeves propaganda I had to hear over the last 48 hours. Give me a break. No, it's LeBron, man. Look, we can fool ourselves and say Luka's this and Luka's that, and he is those things, but he's not their best player because LeBron simply won't allow that to happen. And I don't mean it in like a devious way. I just mean the guy plays in such a way where it kind of comes down to him. And if LeBron plays well, this team will succeed. And if LeBron doesn't play well, particularly on the defensive end, this team will not. And, to me, I think obviously Luka's an incredible talent, but it's still LeBron.
So it's this team that we're watching now is what you're saying. Yeah. Basically, we've gotten to look at it.
Sub 500 team. They're 2-3 without LeBron. They lost to the Bucks. They lost to the Nets. They lost to the
How
Nuggets.
Important is LeBron to their defense? Because if you go from like January 30th to March 2nd, they had the best defensive rating in the league. And that, I don't know if it's sustainable, especially without LeBron. But then you say to yourself, how important could a 40-year-old possibly be to that defense?
Really important, Izzy, because he was doing it. He was playing it. And that's been like the book on LeBron since, at the very least, since Cleveland. Some might argue even that last year in Miami, where he picks and chooses, hey, man, I'm not going to kill myself here. I'm going to save it for when it matters, right? I can do it. I'm just not going to expend the energy to do it, right? And certainly his tenure in the Lakers has been that. And then when they got Luka, it was just like, I'm locking in. And you see on a night-to-night basis when he's locked in, he still can defend at a high level. He switches. He guards multiple positions.
But then he has to take plays. 2 weeks off.
With the same injury as Anthony Davis, right? He's 40 years old. What do you want from him? Of course he's hurt. He's not used to playing that hard on the defensive end for 3 weeks or whatever it was. So
I think if you're this game that we're playing, the Lakers have the best man standing, right? They have the best player remaining of the number twos. Because we're not. Karl Anthony Towns not better than Luka Doncic.
We'll get to it. We got a lot of names on this list. Let's
Jaylen Brown. Wait, all right. Let's keep going.
We're getting there. We got a lot of names on this list. Let's move to Oklahoma City. Talk about the Thunder -1. Now, this one is clear. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is their best player. How good are the Thunder without SGA? Izzy? He's averaging 33 points a game, 6.2 assists, 5 rebounds. He is the favorite for now for MVP. And the Thunder have withstood a number of injuries this season, albeit none extended, at least, to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Let me say this. They would be a lottery team, so we wouldn't even be talking about how far they'd go in the playoffs. Team? Yeah, I mean, what are you seeing that's different? Okay, so you've got Jalen Williams will suddenly, slot into your best player. So there's a guy who maybe will drop to 44, 45% shooting. You can't assume he's going to do the same thing with the same efficiency as the number one option. And then Chet Holmgren, your number two. Then what do you have? You're going to tell me like Aaron Wiggins is going to round off your big three, Isaiah Hartenstein, you go Twin Tower situation. Like, I don't think that they have a whole lot from they're not very top heavy. They might be deep, but they're not top heavy.
Yeah, I mean, they are deep. That's the point. Number one. Number two, you're not going to disrespect Jalen Williams, the first all-star from the greater Phoenix metropolitan area. I'm going to stand up for him. Perry High School stand up. Number three, you know what the Thunder do? They defend the hell out of it. Not for 4 weeks like your Lakers, your precious Lakers, Izzy. No, they did it all year long. And defense travels. Look, I'm not saying this is still going to be a team that's contending for a championship without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I would never. I don't want to disrespect SGA in that way. But to say that they're a lottery team, given the way they defend, the way they move the ball, the way they have multiple different scoring options. And by the way, they've got playmakers. Guys like Hartenstein is a playmaker. Jalen Williams is a playmaker. Jalen Holmgren is a playmaker. I think they would more than survive. They might even, look, you know what? I might even put them in the top 6 without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
In a world where everybody's missing their best player, they might have a fighting chance. They're a play-in team.
A fighting chance. You are disrespectful.
All right, look, you're going to have to, before our time is up as partners talking stuff on the air, you're going to have to show me a Jalen Williams-led team and tell me how far they go and just tell me how many wins they have. If that ever happens, then you can come back and say, hey, I was right on this one segment.
Yeah, 10 years from now when he wins his MVP.
It's going to be a long time. An MVP, whew, that's going to be a while. I'm going to move on because the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think, have an interesting debate as to who their best player is. I mean, probably not best, maybe most important player, right? Because you got Donovan Mitchell, who's giving you 24 points, 5 assists a game. You got Darius Garland, point guard, 21 and 7-ish. And Evan Mobley, who's maybe defensive player of the year, giving you about 18 and 9. Which one of those are you taking off the team if you're taking off their best player? It's got to be Donovan Mitchell, right?
Well, see, here's the thing. So the Cavs are 6-0 when Donovan Mitchell doesn't play. They're 4-0 when Garland doesn't play. What's their record when Mobley doesn't play? 5-3.
Really?
They've said it themselves. I don't have to go off of those numbers. We went into camp, came out of camp, training camp with Coach Kenny Atkinson and Donovan Mitchell. Everyone's saying we got to go as far as Evan will take us. Evan is our best player. That's the reason why during All-Star Weekend I told Kenny Atkinson, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Rasheed Wallace, whereas a guy who plays and plays the right way and has this world of talent, but also seems to want to be one of the guys. But
doesn't have nearly the offensive talent as Rasheed Wallace, but I get what you're saying.
I mean, doesn't he? Like, look, I respect Rasheed immensely, but I think we look at Evan Mobley and we think this is a guy that could be and should be doing a lot more from a kind of demand standpoint. Now, can he shoot?
So is this who we're taking off the team, Evan Mobley? Like definitively?
I kind of feel like it because he impacts both sides. At the end of the day, when you say Mobley or Garland, at the end of the day, you have a reasonable facsimile for them, right? If Mobley's out, Mitchell or Garland, right? You have a reasonable facsimile. If Mitchell's out, well, I got Garland. If Garland's out, well, I got Mitchell. If Mobley's out, there's nobody on their roster that can approximate what he does.
No, and you mentioned Garland just being his sidekick or backcourt mate. You could just go to the bench and get a Ty Jerome that can give you some big numbers, and DeAndre Hunter can come off the bench and give you some big numbers. So all right, let's take off Evan Mobley because I agree with you. The void is greater when he's off the floor. And however, this is still a really good team without him. There's so many, and now you're talking about, okay, so maybe I was wrong before when I said Luka might be the best available man standing because Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs can be a problem. And so this team immediately jumps up to the top of my list, which kind of goes to the point of, hey, maybe this is why people are sleeping on them. Maybe this is why, who was it? Somebody recently just completely dismissed the Cavaliers as a potential championship team. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Like, if we just played this game right here, take a player out, which in the playoffs, that might happen to every single team. You might miss a good player for an extended period of time. This team's going to be pretty set.
Another team that might be pretty set are the Boston Celtics, Izzy. So, first, I guess want to point out before we say who's their best player, they played the other night, Monday night, without either Tatum or Brown, and they beat the Nets behind some guy named Bale or something or other. Like maybe he's their best player and we just haven't realized all year long. But you've got two guys in Tatum and Brown. Tatum averaging 27 points, 8.7 rebounds, 5.9 assists. Brown is averaging 22.8 points, 6.1 rebounds, 4.7 assists. They're both excellent defensively. I would put Brown higher than Tatum on the defensive scale. How good are the Celtics without either of them? They're 5-1 without Tatum, losing to Orlando. They're 10-3 without Brown, losing to Cleveland and Detroit and Golden State before Jimmy Butler got there. So the records are almost similar, right? It's 5-1 versus 10-3. So let's
it looks
start
like
there.
Though Tatum sits out games where the team's probably going to win anyway. Like the Detroit one's okay, but Portland, Utah, Brooklyn, Orlando, those are all teams that Boston's like, you don't need me tonight. I'll be okay. Look, I'm curious how good this team is with everybody healthy and without Jason Tatum. I'm talking Kristaps Porzingis. I'm talking Derek White. Like that's a ridiculous team. It still is. Like it's not as deep. It's probably a 6-man, 7 deep in the playoffs, and your 7th man is somewhat questionable. He's going to get, exposed a little bit. But this is still, you're still talking about having the finals MVP on your team. If you take off Jason Tatum, you still have multiple people you can use as the sort of centerpiece or the starting point of your offense. And so Boston and their system and their 3-point shooting, maybe their efficiency goes down some from 3-point shooting, but it's not like Jason Tatum's shooting, the lights out this year. I think he's right around 36%.
From 3. Yeah, absolutely. And Brown is one of those guys where it's funny, maybe we are sour on the Celtics in general because we don't respect the path they took to the championship last year. But Brown is one of those guys where it's like, okay, he plays both sides of the ball. He's a good playmaker. He's a decent shooter. He's an excellent defensive player. He stays in shape. He works hard. He's competitive. He plays almost every night. Right? Like, why doesn't he get more respect? He's a finals MVP. Why doesn't he get more respect on the kind of national conversation level? I think, he deserves a lot of respect. And I think the Celtics, again, regardless of who you pick out of those two guys, if you take one of them off, this might be one of the strongest submissions as far as teams that can survive the game of -1.
Jalen Brown's going to have to get in line if he's trying to figure out why on his own team. If he's trying to figure out why everybody doesn't love him. Because I think it's more of a gap between Jason Tatum, between production and fan love than there is for Jalen Brown. I think Jalen Brown actually gets some of that as a result of Jason Tatum not being beloved. I think Jalen Brown gets a little bit of that. But let's go to what I believe will be the worst team of this group if you take away their best player, the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis, I've already talked about it. There's a conspiracy theory out there that people aren't supposed to talk about him so that we can get him to a big market and see the end of second half, if you will, of Giannis's career somewhere else. Man, are you ready for a Dame Lillard and Kyle Kuzma led team? Because I'm not at this point of Dame Lillard's career.
Yeah, it's tough, man. So they're 6-6 when Giannis hasn't played this year, which I guess is decent considering the supporting talent. I wonder if we had a system where it's like, it goes back to Portland, right? This is Dame's team. Everything is in service of Dame in terms of the plays we run, in terms of the personnel we run out there on the floor. I think they'd be better than what they are right now. Not what they are right now with Giannis, but what they are right now when Giannis doesn't play. And for that reason, I don't think this would be an awful situation, but I don't think they'd be very good either.
This team's given up 140 a game.
Yeah.
You still got Brook Lopez in there, but you are wearing that man out. He is an older gentleman. He cannot handle a defense like that. You talk about Dame Lillard, Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, who in theory might be a little bit worse after coming off this PED suspension. Who else? It's just AJ Green. It's just, they're going to give up a ton of points. And this is Dame Lillard is just not the same guy. When he can pick his spots, he can give you a game. But if he's the main man again, it's not happening.
Is that I kind of feel like whatever drop off we've experienced from Portland and Milwaukee is because he's trying to fit in. The moment you play -1 and Giannis is out of there, it's like, all right, let's make this my home now. Let's decorate the way I want to decorate it. Let's run the plays I want to run. But
in theory, wouldn't you, if you're able to pick your spots and wouldn't you be more efficient that way?
No,
wouldn't you shoot it better?
Not when you've lived
seasons now.
Not when you've lived your entire NBA life, pretty much where anything goes my way, right? Minus the couple of years with LaMarcus Aldridge in the beginning. But for the longest time, he's had it his way. Now, all of a sudden, you have to fit yourself back into a smaller box. All right,
you heard my other name right there, right? Kyle Kuzma is your number 2.
I get it.
Washington Wizards all over again.
Anthony Simons was a better number 2? What are we talking about here? Come on.
I don't know. Look, we're going to go and we're going to come back with some more teams. The team that we come back to start with might be the most intriguing for me on this whole list.
All right, welcome back to Oddball. We're going to continue. We got a couple more teams to get to before we get to the bracket stage of this exercise, playing -1, taking the best player off of a team and seeing how good they'll be. We get to the Memphis Grizzlies. And Izzy, this one is perhaps the most damning one because I think most people would say Ja Morant is their best player.
Right.
But this is probably the one we have the biggest sample size. If we go back a couple of years now, the Grizzlies historically play really well when Ja doesn't play. And so is it depth or is that maybe he's not their best player? What do you think?
Well, let me throw something else onto there in terms of Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, if you want to say, oh, he doesn't play a lot, they have a good record. Ja doesn't play a lot, they have a good record without Ja. It must be Jaren Jackson Jr. Right. Why is it that he can't stay on the floor for 30 minutes a game, man? Like, he doesn't even average. Exactly. He doesn't average 30 minutes a game. That's a lot of minutes where your defense is not on the floor. Yeah. Like, how many rebounds does he average? What, 5.8 rebounds?
Yeah.
How can you not give me more rebounds as this big? And then, like, okay, the popular thing these days is the combined steals and blocks stocks, right? So he's averages 2.9. Sounds like a decent number. Man, he has 1.6 blocks per game. When he won Depoy, he practically doubled that. So it's like, wait a second.
He's being more judicious.
Are we just giving him credit because he is the guy putting up the second best numbers on the team or even the best numbers on the team? Or is he really just a piece of a solid team, like 1 through 10?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he's a very good player, like a lot of the other guys on the Grizzlies. You know, Desmond Bane, a really good player, right?
Just had 44 the other night.
So, you know, I don't know which direction I would go, and I would lean towards Ja being their best player.
Okay,
and I think you give a lot of credit to Taylor Jenkins, their head coach, for creating a system and developing talent that plays behind him. Because think about this. 3 years ago, when they were winning without Ja, it was Tyus Jones. Now it's Scottie Pippen Jr. And neither of those guys really came in super heralded into the NBA. Obviously, Tyus Jones played at Duke, but like no one thought he was going to be this great NBA player. And now Scottie Pippen, he was a two-way guy. In either case, these are guys that we kind of have learned to respect through their play in Ja's absence, not kind of like showing that Ja wasn't that important.
Yeah, I say all that about Triple J to say this team is going to be one of the top seeds because they've done it so often without Ja and have shown that they can. So let's go on to the Warriors. Nobody's making the case that Jimmy's better than Steph. So Steph is the guy clearly leading this team. Jimmy's been averaging 17, 6, and 6 since he went over there, but just carried the team to a victory over the Nuggets, right? Without Steph Curry.
Against the Bucks.
Against the Bucks without Steph Curry. What do the Warriors look like without Steph? I mean, it can't be pretty.
Look, without Steph, it's not pretty. But like the Thunder, it's effective because the defense travels. You give me Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green defensively. And if Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga and all those guys can take advantage of the extra opportunities out there, I don't think it's pretty. I don't think it's stellar, but I think it wins a lot of games out in the mud. I like this Warriors team. I don't know. I like it.
This just reminds me of just how ridiculous they were. Imagine playing this game with the 17 Warriors. Oh, who are you going to take off, Steph or KD? Yeah. Who cares? It's been ridiculous.
All right,
I don't think this team's going to be very good, though.
Really quick, I want to go through a couple other teams we don't have time for. The Nuggets, on the plus side, they beat the Warriors without Jokic and Murray. On the minus side, they lost to the Wizards with Jokic and Murray, so get out of here. The Orlando Magic, hey, they played great when Paolo went down. They played great when Franz Wagner went down. They didn't play great when Mo Wagner went down. Maybe Mo Wagner's their best player. And the Rockets, well.
And we just couldn't decide. I was saying Men's their best player. Everybody else said it was somebody else, so we just threw them off the list. So get out of here.
Pull up the bracket for us, please. I think we can get it done. All right, here we go. Lakers versus Bucks. Izzy, who you got?
Lakers easy, run away. Bucks are terrible.
Me too. All right, Grizzlies versus Warriors in the 4-5. Who you got?
Give me the Grizzlies there. They've done it without Ja before.
I'd fight you on that and say the Warriors could make it ugly, but I agree with you. The Grizzlies have done it before. All right, Celtics versus Knicks as a 3-6. Who do you have?
Celtics can still shoot the lights out. I'm taking the Celtics.
Yes, me too. Cavs versus Thunder 2-7.
I know you hate it, but you're going to take the Cavs here too, aren't you?
These seedings suck, I might say. This is the -1 bracket, ladies and gentlemen. This is without their best players. All right, Lakers versus Grizzlies in the second round.
I got the Grizzlies. I got the Grizzlies taking the upset there.
Okay, Celtics versus Cavs. This might be the best. This should be the championship.
That
really.
should be the championship, and I think the Cavaliers are taking that one.
Okay, and then finally, Grizzlies versus Cavs as a champion. Who do you have, Izzy?
Cavaliers, same team I would probably pick right now to win the championship overall.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Izzy Gutierrez is very big on the Cavaliers, even when we're playing the game of -1. That's going to do it for us here on Oddball. Izzy, final thoughts?
Addition by subtraction is definitely a better name than -1.
-1.
Final thoughts.